And function of gastric secretion, phases of gastric secretion. Okay, so gastric secretion function, very simple function: digestion of fats and protein. Always remember, these fats and these protein are in complex or poly chains, right? What I mean is that they are in a very complex state. We need to break their asses. Once we break their asses, we will get simpler forms of these fats and proteins. So we need acid, right? So what happened here is that our gastric secretion has something called as gastric lipases, right? And we remember that this gastric lipases, okay, I hope we remember, for the breakdown of fats in saliva, we have something called as salivary, something called as lingual lipase, and they are produced by von Ebner's gland. This von Ebner is part of one of the two minor salivary glands, Weber's gland and von Ebner's, and we have three main glands for saliva: sublingual, parotid, and submandibular, right? So a little bit of fat digestion in the saliva, a little bit of this carb digestion, but no protein digestion, because protein chains are really, really, really strong, so we cannot break them, right? So our stomach has really big and strong gastric lipases. It stops and it destroys this, fat, long, fatty acid chain, right? So source is chief cell. Our chief cells, right? They are present. So gastric glands have T6 cells: surface, neck, parietal, and ECL-like cells, and chief cells. Chief cells make pepsinogen. Okay, pepsinogen is also important for protein. P stands for protein, P stands for pepsinogen. We'll talk about this a little bit more later. So chief cells, they make gastric lipases. Gastric lipases are called gastric because they are called gastric because they are made in gastric. They are called lingual because they are called lingual lipase, they are found in buccal cavity, so lingual. And pancreatic also exists. So we have three type of gastric. So we have three type of lipases. So fat digestion can happen from saliva. It can happen from stomach. It can happen from pancreas. That's important thing, concept. Okay, why? Because we have these lipases there. We have these cells that can produce lipases. Why? That's why. We cannot break carbohydrates. We cannot digest because we have no enzymes for this carbohydrate. We have protein enzymes in our stomach, right, that can break down complex protein chains. And again, the source of these pepsinogen is again chief cell. So there is one cell that is chief cell. It's chief of breaking down acids. It's a chief in this digestion. So it makes gastric lipases and pepsinogen. So pepsinogen, with the help of something called as HCl acid, gets pepsin, right? And this pepsin can further break down protein, and then we can get simpler protein chains. So that's how protein is happening. Protein digestion is happening in the stomach. Other thing is that renin, that is found in cows, that's also produced by produced by stomach. So protection, this secretion, gastric secretion, can also protect, right? How? Increased acidity leads to microorganism killed, of course. And we understand this how, because we need to kill these. We don't want some bacterial growth in our stomach. So here a little bit more about pepsinogen. So pepsinogen is a zymogen. It means it's an inactive enzyme. So this pepsinogen gets converted into pepsin. I will tell you how, by something called as endopeptidase. So this pepsinogen gets converted into pepsin. Now this pepsin denatures, and it breaks these complex protein chains, and this pepsin is inactive in the pH which is above 5. So it's active only in acidic pH. 5 is the number, right? So if your pH, so for example, it's amazing how it works. I'll tell you, because pepsin is really, really, really dangerous. If pepsin was present in your serum, it will just destroy a lot of albumin. It will destroy globulin. It will destroy all the protein that is holding these dangerous things. For example, ferrous 2+, it's really dangerous. If it's freely available in your serum, it will gonna go and bind to a lot of shit, and it's a lot of signaling is gonna happen. For example, calcium is very dangerous example, because a lot of extracellular calcium or serum calcium can actually lead to abnormal signaling of a lot of things. So usually body makes these proteins to keep these things in check. Usually we call transferrin. Okay, transferrin is this protein that keeps this E2 plus binded with itself, so that it's not active. So that's why if pepsin was present. Now the cool thing about your blood is that the normal pH of blood is around, how much? It's around like 7.4, 7.3 to 7.4. It's like that, right? It can be a little, I can be a little bit off, like 0.5 pH. So usually it's like that, right? So I know that pepsin is only activated, right, in the acidic environment, and our blood environment is from 7.3 to 7.4. If it goes a little bit 1 pH more, it becomes alkaline, we can die. If it goes 1 less, we can die. So that's why pepsin is activated in HCl. So someone asked me, not someone, I asked myself, oh, why is getting activated by HCl? Because you don't want pepsin to get activated in your blood. That's why. That's a good answer. So pepsin, these peptides, they break the protein into small fragments of protein, and then peptide move, and then it moves to pancreatic duodenum, and then pancreatic enzyme act on these peptide, and then these peptide, they break more, and then we have free peptide from amino acids. That's how the protein digestion happens. Phases of gastric acid secretion: cephalic, gastric, and intestinal. Gastric is triggered by some sort of smell, sight, thought of food by acetylcholine. Cephalic is like that. Gastric happens when food enters the stomach. That is very important. If food is not there, it will not get activated. So acid secretion happens, 20 to 30% of whole acid story happens in cephalic phase. That's like when you already know, oh, my mom is cooking some really, really tasty, I don't know, some baklava, I don't know, and I want to eat that, and you're thinking about it. So this cephalic phases start hitting those good nerves, so that you start making a little bit of acid. So your stomach is getting ready for this amazing baklava that you're gonna devour. Or then we have gastric phase, right? This baklava goes to your stomach, and then you're like, wow, this is so tasty, and your stomach is like, okay, I'm gonna destroy this. Food enters the stomach. Enteral G cells, we know enteral G cells make G cells, right? G cells make gastrin directly and indirectly increase acid secretion, right? Intestinal phase, due to the products of protein digestion, I already told you, this is the products. Peptide moves into duodenum, and pancreas is like, oh, there is some food, let's squeeze myself. I'm gonna squeeze my pancreas. I'm gonna squeeze myself and release some bicarb and some this. I'm gonna release some enzyme that can really just move this peptide away from amino acid chain, so that I can eat this peptide, right? So again, intestinal phase is just 10%. So again, intestinal G cells. We have G cells in the intestine. So again, G cells increase acid secretion, blah, 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 this happens. So I hope we understand phases of gastric secretion. I have written something here. Why the name cephalic? Because it's happening in the head. It's all in the head. The signals act on dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus. Dorsal motor is like, signaling. And it goes to hippocampus, right? And acetylcholine act on D cells, right? And it inhibits D cell. Right, it inhibits D cells, make somatostatin. Somatostatin is a universal inhibitor. So this acetylcholine and stops the somatostatin, and it's like, okay, don't come outside. You're gonna ruin everything. So somatostatin, it doesn't come outside, and then we have no brakes on acid release, and then we have 20 to 30% of acid release in the acid secretion in this phase. Other thing acetylcholine does is that it positively influences this parietal G cell and ECL cells. ECL make histamine. Histamine goes to parietal, right, and then it can make acid. G cell make gastrin. It can again acid. Parietal makes acid. So I hope we understand this cephalic and this gastric acid secretion, right?